The FBI just updated the list of most wanted criminals in 2026 and the bounties on their heads are good enough to change someone's life forever. These are not ordinary criminals. They are fugitives on the run, hiding in the shadows, building empires of fear and violence while the world hunts them down. Today, we're breaking down the top 10, who they are, the crimes that put them on this list, and why catching them could rewrite history. Before we begin, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications, so that you never miss any of our deep dive into the world's darkest mysteries. Now let's get into it. Number 1. Rafael Caro Quintero. Rafael Caro Quintero has been running from justice for decades. To many, he is remembered as one of the founding fathers of Mexico's modern drug trade, the man who helped build a criminal empire worth billions. But to the FBI, he is the prime suspect behind one of the most shocking crimes ever committed against a U.S. federal agent. In the early 1980s, Caro Quintero's cartel grew fast and ruthless, pushing massive amounts of drugs into the United States. By the 1970s and early 1980s, he became one of the primary suppliers of heroin, cocaine, and marijuana to the United States. He lived like royalty, mansions, private jets, parties that went on for days. He operated a 2,500-acre marijuana plantation called Rancho Buffalo in Chihuahua with barracks for 10,000 workers, state-of-the-art irrigation systems, warehouses for processing and storage, and vast fields of marijuana. The ranch yielded harvests worth billions with street values estimated between $2.5 billion to $8 billion. But everything changed when agent Enrique "Kiki" Camarena began investigating him. Camarena was determined to bring the cartel down. In November 1984, acting on information provided by Camarena, Mexican authorities raided Rancho Buffalo and burned over 10,000 tons of marijuana in what was the largest drug seizure ever at that time. The effects of the burning marijuana were felt within a 100-mile radius around the field. Caro Quintero decided Camarena was a threat that needed to be eliminated. In 1985, Camarena was kidnapped, tortured for hours, and killed. Over the course of 30 hours, the bones of Camarena's face were crushed, as were his ribs and windpipe. A hole was drilled into his head. His captors gave him drugs to force him to remain awake during the ordeal. The world was horrified. The United States became relentless. And Caro Quintero became a wanted man. Caro Quintero and his cartel employed hitmen who carried out numerous acts of violence, including murders, assaults, kidnappings, and acts of torture. He used extreme violence to protect the cartel's operations, beating and killing anyone who got in his way. He was also responsible for ordering the kidnapping and torture of American writer John Clay Walker and dentistry student Alberto Radalat on January 30, 1985. The two U.S. citizens accidentally walked into one of Caro Quintero's private parties at a Guadalajara restaurant. Caro Quintero ordered his men to seize them and take them to a storeroom where they were tortured with ice picks. Walker died from blunt force trauma to the head. Radalat was wrapped in tablecloths while still alive, taken to a park and buried. Their bodies were found 6 months later. Camarena's pilot, Alfredo Zavala Avelar, was also kidnapped and killed. He was captured and sentenced to prison in Mexico. Many believed justice had finally won. But then, in 2013, he was suddenly released on what the courts called a legal technicality. By the time authorities realized the mistake, he had vanished. The FBI added him to the most wanted list and offered a reward of up to $20 million for information leading to his capture, one of the highest bounties in history. Rumors spread that he hid deep inside Mexico's mountains, protected by bodyguards and powerful allies. Some say he kept running the cartel from the shadows, returning to drug trafficking as a senior leader of the Sinaloa cartel. He unleashed bloody turf battles in the northern Mexico border state of Sonora. Others claim he grew weak and desperate, constantly shifting hiding places to stay alive. The hunt intensified. In 2022, Mexican authorities announced a dramatic arrest. Caro Quintero had finally been found and taken into custody. But legal battles began almost immediately. His lawyers fought to stop his extradition to the United States, arguing that his health was failing. Years passed, and as appeals continued, the FBI still listed him among their most wanted. To them, he remained a dangerous man, a symbol of violence, corruption, and a past that refused to die. On February 27, 2025, the Mexican government extradited Caro Quintero and 28 other drug cartel figures to the United States to face criminal charges. On February 28, 2025, Caro Quintero was arraigned in Brooklyn Federal Court, where he pleaded not guilty to charges of running a criminal enterprise, murder conspiracy, international narcotics distribution conspiracy, and unlawful use of firearms. As he entered the courtroom, he wore handcuffs that had belonged to the man prosecutors say he killed, DEA's Special Agent Kiki Camarena. Whether he will finally face justice for decades of violence, or whether the legal system will once again fail the victims and their families, remains to be seen. And how many people are still willing to risk everything to protect him? Number 2. Fausto Isidro Meza Flores, alias El Chapo Isidro. Fausto Isidro Meza Flores has been a ghost for decades. To those who know his name, he is remembered as one of the most cunning survivors of Mexico's drug wars, a man who learned from the best, outlasted his rivals, and built a criminal empire that floods America with death. But to the FBI, he is a ruthless cartel leader responsible for kidnapping, torture, murder, and pumping deadly drugs into the United States for over 20 years. Born on June 19, 1982 in Navajoa, Sonora, Mexico, Meza Flores began his criminal career in the 1990s working for the Juarez cartel under Amado Carrillo Fuentes, known as the Lord of the Skies. After Carrillo Fuentes died from plastic surgery complications in 1997, Meza Flores switched sides and joined the Beltran Leyva cartel, where he proved to be a skilled hitman, capable of daring, cunning, and bravado. His gang Los Mazatlacos has been smuggling large quantities of methamphetamine, heroin, marijuana, and cocaine into the United States since 2000. For over 20 years, he has flooded the United States with fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, and other deadly drugs. He is charged with conspiracy to distribute cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and marijuana for importation into the United States, as well as firearms violations. On July 1, 2010, Meza Flores and his men carried out a surprise ambush attack on Sinaloa cartel gunmen in the town of Tabatama, Sonora, just miles from the Arizona border. About 30 people died in the fierce gunfight. 11 bullet-ridden vehicles were found at the scene, along with dozens of assault rifles. Some vehicles had an X painted on their windows, a method used by drug trafficking organizations to distinguish their vehicles from rivals during armed confrontations. On April 28, 2010, Meza Flores was nearly captured by Mexican law enforcement in the mountains of Xua, Sinaloa. The operation left 2 soldiers dead and 12 of his gunmen dead, including his right-hand man Omar Alfonso Rubio. Since 2010, the fight between his organization and the Sinaloa cartel has generated a wave of kidnappings and executions in Sinaloa. He leads heavily armed hitmen who use violence to maintain control of areas in Mexico, used for the production and transport of narcotics destined for the United States. His organization is accused of heinous crimes ranging from kidnapping and extortion to torture and murder. In December 2024, Mexican authorities linked Meza Flores to the largest fentanyl seizure in Mexican history. On December 3, 2024, security forces raided locations in the municipalities of Guasave and a home in Sinaloa, and seized over 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl, more than 20 million doses with a street value estimated at $394 million. 2 members of his criminal cell were arrested during the operation. Meza Flores is also believed to lead a group called The Office, which operates in Baja California Sur. This group allegedly killed 2 rival members in August 2011, sparking a violent struggle for control of the area. The group is believed to include members from multiple cartels. A suspected member arrested in 2012 told authorities that the group had killed dozens of local drug traffickers in Los Cebeos. While other cartel leaders grabbed headlines, Meza Flores stayed in the shadows. He survived wars that destroyed his rivals. He watched as El Chapo Guzman was captured and imprisoned. He saw the Sinaloa cartel tear itself apart in internal wars between Los Chapitos and La Meza. And while they bled resources fighting each other, he quietly expanded his territory, pushing deeper into northern Sinaloa and neighboring Sonora. The U.S. Treasury Department froze his assets and sanctioned 7 of his family members, and 3 companies connected to his criminal organization in 2013 and 2017. U.S. authorities announced a $5 million reward for information leading to his capture. On February 4, 2025, he was added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. Yet despite decades of investigations, arrests of his associates, record drug seizures, and a massive manhunt, Fausto Isidro Meza Flores remains free. He is the only Mexican currently on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. Some believe he hides deep in the mountains of Sinaloa, protected by loyal gunmen and bot officials. Others say he has forged alliances with powerful factions, making him untouchable. Whether he is planning his next move or running for his life, one thing is certain. El Chapo Isidro has mastered the art of survival in a world where most men don't live long enough to become legends. And as long as he remains free, the drugs will keep coming, the bodies will keep piling up, and families on both sides of the border will keep paying the price. Fugitive 3, Ruja Ignatova, the Crypto Queen. Ruja Ignatova has been a ghost since 2017. To those who fell for her promises, she was a brilliant entrepreneur, a charismatic Oxford-educated businesswoman who claimed she had created the next Bitcoin. But to the FBI, she is one of the most wanted criminals in the world, the mastermind behind what prosecutors call one of the largest fraud schemes in history. Born on May 30, 1980, in Bulgaria, Ignatova later earned a master's degree in European law at Oxford University and worked as a consultant in the Sofia office of McKinsey & Company. She projected the image of success, intelligence, and innovation. But behind the polished exterior was a woman who had already been convicted of fraud once before. In 2012, she was convicted of fraud in Germany in connection with her father's acquisition of a company that shortly afterwards was declared bankrupt under dubious circumstances. She received a suspended sentence of 14 months imprisonment. In 2013, she was involved with a multi-level marketing scam called Bitcoin. In 2014, she founded OneCoin, a pyramid scheme disguised as a cryptocurrency. She pitched OneCoin to investors with bold statements like, "In 2 years, nobody will speak about Bitcoin anymore." She promised them a simpler, safer alternative to Bitcoin. She held massive events, including one at London's Wembley Stadium in front of 90,000 cheering fans who believed they were witnessing a financial revolution. In reality, unlike legitimate cryptocurrencies, OneCoin had no actual value and was conceived by Ignatova and her co-founder Carl Sebastian Greenwood as a fraud from day one. OneCoin lied to its members about how its cryptocurrency was valued, claiming that the price was based on market supply and demand, when in fact OneCoin itself arbitrarily set the value of the coin without regard to market forces. There was no blockchain. There was no real cryptocurrency. It was smoke and mirrors. OneCoin operated as a multi-level marketing network in which investors received commissions for recruiting others to buy cryptocurrency packages ranging from starter to tycoon trader. Ignatova and her partners promised buyers a 5-fold or even 10-fold return on their investment. A buying frenzy ensued across the globe. Wealthy investors poured in millions. But the cruelest part of the scheme was how it preyed on the poorest and most vulnerable. Farmers in remote Ugandan villages sold their livestock and houses to buy OneCoin packages. Daniel Lienhart, a 22-year-old Ugandan, invested $250 in a OneCoin starter package by selling 3 goats and his savings in 2017. The OneCoin promoter who signed him up later said, "I'm somehow hiding myself. I don't want those people I introduced into OneCoin to see me. They can easily kill me. They thought I ate their money." People who had nothing gave everything, believing Ignatova's promises would change their lives. Beginning in approximately 2014, Ignatova and others defrauded billions of dollars from investors all over the world. More than 3.5 million victims invested in OneCoin and lost more than $4 billion from the scheme. Internal emails revealed the contempt Ignatova and Greenwood had for their victims. Greenwood described their investors as idiots and crazy in an email to Ignatova's brother. Ignatova wrote to Greenwood in 2014, "It might not be something really clean or that I normally work on or even can be proud of except with you in private, when we make the money." She also proposed an exit strategy, saying they should take the money and run and blame somebody else for this. And that is exactly what she did. On October 25, 2017, Ignatova was scheduled to speak to an audience of OneCoin investors in Lisbon. Instead, she boarded a Ryanair flight from Sofia, Bulgaria to Athens, Greece, and disappeared. She may have been tipped off about increasing police investigations into OneCoin. Within weeks of a federal indictment filed against her in October 2017, Ignatova fled following a tip-off from corrupt law enforcement officials. She has not been seen publicly since. Ignatova was charged in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, conspiracy to commit securities fraud and securities fraud. In June 2022, the FBI added Ignatova to its 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. In June 2024, the reward for information leading to her arrest was increased to $5 million. While she vanished, her co-conspirators faced justice. Carl Sebastian Greenwood, who co-founded the scam alongside Ignatova, was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2023 and ordered to disgorge $300 million. Her ex-boyfriend, Gilbert Armenta, who was involved in the scam, got 5 years for wire fraud and money laundering. Lawyer Mark Scott, who allegedly laundered over $400 million for OneCoin, is serving 10 years behind bars. Her brother Konstantin walked away earlier this year after cooperating with authorities. Ignatova is believed to travel with armed guards and associates. She may have had plastic surgery or otherwise altered her appearance. She may travel on a German passport to the United Arab Emirates, Bulgaria, Germany, Russia, Greece, and Eastern Europe. In 2023, Bulgarian investigative reporting site Bird published a report on Bulgarian police documents in which a police informant had overheard a conversation, claiming that Ignatova was murdered in November 2018 on the orders of Bulgarian drug lord Taki Ristoforos Amanatidis. According to the report, Ignatova was allegedly murdered aboard a yacht in the Ionian Sea, and her body was dismembered and thrown overboard. However, investigators found major holes in this claim. The alleged hitman was in prison in the Netherlands at the supposed time of the murder. Investigators who kept a close eye on Ignatova's friends and family at the time of the supposed murder say none mourned her, which they concluded was because they had no knowledge of her death. German filmmaker Johann von Merbach, who has been investigating the crypto queen for years, claims that Ignatova is alive and hiding in an affluent neighborhood in Cape Town, South Africa. Whether she is living in luxury under a new identity, hiding in fear, or dead at the bottom of the sea, one thing is certain: Ruja Ignatova destroyed millions of lives. She took the life savings of people who could least afford to lose them. She turned trust into a weapon and hope into a trap. And somewhere in the world, if she is still alive, she is living on the billions she stole while her victims struggle to survive. The only woman currently on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list, the crypto queen remains one of the greatest mysteries in the history of financial crime. Fugitive number 4, Omar Alexander Cardenas. Omar Alexander Cardenas has been running from justice with a $250,000 bounty on his head. To those who knew him, he was just another gang member from the streets of Los Angeles. But to the FBI, he is a remorseless killer who murdered an innocent man in broad daylight and vanished before he could face justice. Born on March 23, 1995, Cardenas is a suspected member of the Pierce Street Gang in Los Angeles. Cardenas is allegedly a member of the Pierce Street Gang, and may associate with the street gang known as Pacoima Van Nuys Boys. Cardenas has gone by the nickname Dollar. On August 15, 2019, around 4:20 p.m., gunfire erupted at a Silmar shopping center in Los Angeles. When police arrived, Los Angeles police detective Robert Dinlocker said the shopping center was like a hornet's nest. It was chaotic, and they were trying to sort through what was happening. Authorities found one victim on the outside of a store. Investigators said he was shot one time in the head. The victim was Jabali Dumais, a 46-year-old man who was standing outside the Hair Icon barbershop, LAPD. Chief Michelle Moore stated that Cardenas stopped approximately 30 feet in front of Dumais and fired 9 shots. One struck the victim in the head, resulting in him falling to the ground, face forward, and dying at that location. It is unknown whether the victim was known to Cardenas. Many years ago, authorities said Jabali had connections to a gang in Los Angeles, but more recently, they do not believe he was associated. At this point, it is a possible motive authorities are exploring. Jabali Dumais was not a statistic. He was a father, a brother, a man who left behind a son he loved deeply. Special Agent Michael Alker, who is investigating the case for the FBI's Los Angeles field office, said, "At the scene of the crime, Mr. Cardenas is believed to have fired approximately 6 shots into a public space." LAPD Chief Michelle Moore said, "This murder occurred in a strip mall, where people come to shop and engage with their neighbors at the barbershop, impacting an entire community. Senseless acts of violence, particularly gun violence like this, needs to stop. On April 3, 2020, a local arrest warrant was issued for Cardenas in the Superior Court of Los Angeles County, after he was charged with murder. In September 2021, a federal arrest warrant was issued after Cardenas was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. On July 20, 2022, he was added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. In May 2023, the FBI increased the reward to up to $250,000 for information leading to Cardenas' arrest. Cardenas is between 5 feet 6 and 5'7" and weighs approximately 240 to 300 pounds. He has dark brown-black hair, a beard and brown eyes. Investigators believe that Cardenas may have fled south of the border to Mexico but have not ruled out his possible presence in the United States. Cardenas has family members and/or associates in Los Angeles and the surrounding counties, as well as in Mexico. Investigators believe that Cardenas may be employed as a construction worker, as he has been known to work in that field in the past. Fugitive number 5, Ryan James Wedding. Ryan James Wedding has been running from justice since 2024 is the recent addition to FBI's Most Wanted list with a bounty of $10 million for whoever brings him to justice. Wedding was a successful athlete who won a bronze medal in the parallel giant slalom at the 1999 Junior World Championship and a silver medal in the 2001 Junior World Championships. At the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, he competed for Team Canada in snowboarding men's parallel giant slalom, where he finished 24th. After this, he gave up competitive snowboarding. After the 2002 Winter Olympics, Wedding moved back to Vancouver and attended Simon Fraser University. He got into bodybuilding and started working as a bouncer. After 2 years in university, he dropped out and began to speculate in real estate, which he financed by growing marijuana at a 6,800 plant warehouse on a suburban property called 18 Carat Farms. In 2006, the RCMP raided the farm and found a shotgun, ammunition, and $10 million worth of cannabis. Wedding was not on the property at the time and there was not enough evidence to charge him. But the marijuana operation was just the beginning. Wedding was convicted in 2010 in the United States of conspiracy to distribute cocaine and was sentenced to prison. Since his release, Wedding fled to Mexico and became a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa Cartel, where he is known by the nicknames El Jefe, Giant, or Public Enemy. Wedding headed a complex transnational, organized crime organization which coordinated the procurement and transportation of cocaine from South America to Canada. The superseding indictment alleges that Wedding and others conspired to ship bulk quantities of cocaine weighing hundreds of kilograms from Southern California to Canada through a Canada-based drug transportation network from approximately January 2024 to August 2024. The cocaine shipments were transported from Mexico to the Los Angeles area, where the cocaine trafficking organization's operatives stored the cocaine in stash houses, before delivering it to the transportation network couriers for delivery to Canada using long-haul semi-trucks. On average, the organization allegedly moved 60 tons of cocaine around North America every year. Multiple murders were committed as part of the drug network, and cryptocurrency was used to launder millions of dollars. Federal investigators seized $3 million from one cryptocurrency wallet alone. They would use contract killers to assassinate anyone who they saw as an obstacle to their operation. People killed in connection with the drug operation have been shot execution style. Wedding and Clark allegedly directed the November 20, 2023, murders of Jackter Singh Sidhu, 57, and Harbhajan Kaur Sidhu, 55, in retaliation for a stolen drug shipment that passed through Southern California. The couple were visiting from India to see their daughter, Jasprit Kaur Sidhu, 28, in Caledon, Ontario. Jasprit witnessed the rampage and was shot 13 times. She survived but suffered life-altering injuries. They shot the wrong people. On May 18, 2024, Wedding and Clark directed the murder of Mohammed Zafar over a drug debt. The 39-year-old was found in his driveway suffering from gunshot wounds and died from his injuries. Wedding is also believed to have ordered the April 2024 murder of Randy Fader, who's just 29. Wedding, whose aliases include El Jefe, Giant, and Public Enemy, is the lead defendant in the indictment and is wanted on 8 charges, including 3 counts of murder in connection with a continuing criminal enterprise and drug crime. If convicted of murder and attempted murder charges, he faces a mandatory minimum penalty of life in federal prison. He is believed to reside in Mexico, but investigators have not ruled out his presence elsewhere. including in the US, Canada, Colombia, Honduras, Guatemala, or Costa Rica. Akil Davis, the assistant director of the FBI's Los Angeles field office, said, Wedding went from shredding powder on the slopes at the Olympics to distributing powder cocaine on the streets of US cities and in his native Canada. The alleged murders of his competitors make Wedding a very dangerous man. Whether he is hiding deep in the mountains of Mexico, protected by Sinaloa cartel enforcers, or moving between safe houses in Central America, one thing is certain. Ryan James Wedding is a man who destroyed lives without hesitation, and deserves to be the newest addition to top 10 most wanted on the FBI list. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our next upload.